What's up, world? It's Utopia here, and we're back with another one. This is going to be about New World, and just basically if you should return, coming from an actual returning player, not somebody that's just like, oh, hey, you should return to my dead game. No, this is an actual player. That's someone that I took an 8-month hiatus. I've logged into the game a total of 1 time since then, just to make sure my character wasn't deleted and wasn't missing anything, like gold wasn't gone or anything like that. I'm going to be answering 3 main questions here, and like I said, I preface, I've been on an 8-month hiatus. I was 590 watermark when I quit the game, and I had around 200,000-ish gold. It was a lot back then, it's nothing now. Your big question is, should you come back? And I have 3 or 4 main answers for each category. The first one being is if you're 590, you have a lot of gold, there's probably a reason for you to come back, because you can easily push from 590 to 600 using the new gypsum system, and then after that you could spend between 30 and 40,000 gold on some pieces, and also push to about 620, maybe 625 if you spend another 10,000, so about 50-60,000 gold. You could easily push to 625 with a full set ready to go. Now I'm not sure about a second set. A second set might cost you a little bit more, but you could do that fairly easily and be ready to go, and you could be ready to go for the expansion and all that stuff. Now if you don't have a lot of gold and you're trying to push past 600, I don't recommend returning, other than if you wanted to push to 600, and then I would leave out of the game. So if you're anywhere between 500 gear score and 600 gear score, then I would recommend just returning to push to 600 gear score and then possibly leaving and saving all your bandwidth for the game for the expansion. You don't want to burn out before an expansion release. Now let's say that you're not level 60 yet. I think it's a good time to come back, either now or between mid-July, so that way you can do some dungeon farms and you can farm with people and farm up and farm your level and get what you need to get going, and then hopefully hit level 60. And that's what I would do before the X pack. And I would try, if you don't burn out, I would try to push from 500 expertise to 600. It's not that hard. It might take you a week or 2, but you can definitely get it done. Now if you're a 590 player or even 600 gear score, and maybe it's only been a few months for you, now it's probably not, and you don't have a lot of gold, now is not the time for you to return. I would wait till the X pack. If you're near 600 gear score and you don't have a lot of gold, if you don't have the 40-50k expendable funds, I would not recommend coming back, because your time is not going to be worth it. Now put into perspective, right now you basically, if you're at a 600 gear score, you have to buy a carry, unless you know people on your server, which is perfectly understandable. If you know people on your server and they'll take you through an M10, a mutations 10, then that's fine. But the problem is, I'll give it an example here. You can pay somebody a few thousand gold in 5-10 minutes of your time for 6,000 of this currency that you use to upgrade your gear. You could also spend about 200 hours in outpost rush. In fact, you'd have to win 60 outpost rushes in order to be at the same equivalent of a mutations 10 dungeon that will only take you 5 to 10 minutes to buy a carry. I've never purchased a carry in any video game ever, and I never thought I would, but New World unfortunately forced my hand. No way I'm gonna farm 60 outpost rushes for the same equivalency of me paying somebody a few thousand gold in 5 to 10 minutes of my time. That's just not gonna happen. So unfortunately, New World has had this weird sort of implementation of currencies, and it has been a disparity at the top. You just earn so much at the top. There should be some sort of cap on it. There should be some sort of limit or whatever it is, or you shouldn't be able to invite people regardless. That's what they did, and it's unfortunate that carries is now the meta. However, if you are wanting to buy carries, you should return right now, because in the middle of July, the carry runs will not be cheap, and they might not even happen anymore. Once they get rid of orbs, there's going to be a limit of times that you can enter the dungeon per week. So that means, and I don't know if, again, it might not apply to mutations. I'm assuming it does apply to mutation runs. If it doesn't, that would be kind of crazy, but I assume that it does. So you definitely want to return now to get by those carry runs in. If you're like, oh, I love buying carries, carry me, then come back, buy your carry runs from the whoever, and then move on, push your gear to 625. Got to push your second set to 625 as well, and then you'll be able to do your PvP stuff and your PvE stuff. Right now I'm just pushing a PvE set to 625, so I have it ready to go for the X pack, and if I have time and if I have the gold that I've recruited from selling gear, then I will go ahead and push my PvP set. I'm doing just fine in outpost rush with faction gear. People say, oh, buy the gear off the auction house. Trading Post has some really decent gear, but if you're a mage and you're looking for int, resil, aversion, or refreshing gear, yeah, good luck finding a piece under 10k each, and I'm just not willing to spend that right now. I'm not willing to spend 50k for just the pieces itself, and then I have to spend another 10-20,000 to push all the gear up even more. I'm just not willing to put 70,000 gold in the line right now just for a PvP set, because I'm not that into the game. I also am not even in a guild on this new server, and it's just not, there's no incentive for me to do crazy PvP stuff or war PvP stuff. But I just thought I'd preface those 3 things, so I'll go over them again. If you're between 590, 600 gear score, and you have the gold and you have the time, I would come back. I'd push to 625. I would get yourself ready for the X-Pack and just leave it at that. Maybe not even come back. Maybe not even come back for mid-July update. Just kind of have everything ready to go and all set and done. Now, if you're between 500 gear score and 600, or you're under level 60, I also do recommend coming back. I think now is the time, or at least coming back mid-July, so that way you can push into your level 60 range. But if you're between 500 and 600 gear score and you also want to push to 625, I recommend coming back now. We do not know how the carries are going to be selling then. We do not know a lot of details. I would buy the carry runs now. They've never been cheaper than ever. You can haggle with these people. You do not have to pay ticket price or what they post in the trade chat. And then the last one is if you are 590 or 600 gear score or above 600 and you don't have a lot of gold, now is not the time to come back, because everything you do past this point will cost you some form of gold. Even if it's to enter mutation runs in itself, people pay to join up in, and it's kind of crazy. Even to do the dungeon itself, not even to pay for a carry, but to just participate in the dungeon, people pay to enter those. I find it absolutely astonishing. But anyways, that about covers it. That about covers everything. I tried to give as much details as I could on different stuff, and if you should come back and what sort of bracket system. But that's it for this video. I tried to include as much as I could. 3 different brackets. I've recorded this several times, and I just can't get the details all laid out like I want to. But I hope this is enough for you. These three main possibility examples if you should return, and if so, again, this is coming from somebody who's actually a returning player. I was watermark 590 when I left the game. I've pushed to 620 in 1 day using about 50,000 gold for the pieces, and I've also rolled some too, to be fair. I rolled about maybe like 20,000 in pieces, technically about 30k to push all the way up. Not a lot of gold. I had a decent amount before I left. Unfortunately, the economy is pretty inflated, so you're going to see a lot of pieces at like 200 and 300,000, 500,000, 1 million gold. But other than that, you can still push to your 625 if you have a decent chunk, maybe even 100k with like 30k of it being expendable. Anyways, to the next one. Deuces.